I'd like to introduce Matt Wallach. Matt is a graduate of Harvard Business School and is the co-founder and president of Veeva Systems. Matt took Veeva from a whiteboard idea to a very successful IPO in 2013, and we're very excited to hear what he has to tell us about that journey. Veeva is an inspiration to all entrepreneurs, and with that, I'd like to welcome Matt on stage.
Hi, everybody. Ooh, double mic. So super cool for me to be here. It doesn't feel that long ago that I was sitting on the other side. Of course, I don't remember guys like me up here, because I sort of feel like I'm still on the other side in the audience. I remember like the dean in here in Burden. So real thrill for me to be here. And I want to thank the organizers of Cyberposium for inviting me. Looks like a well-run conference. And so I'm going to talk through a little bit about myself. I'm going to do a quick kind of teach-in on the industry cloud. Many of you maybe read my bio and said, oh, industry cloud, you know, what is that? So I want to define what that is. And I'll talk a little bit about the company, but really just to set up about a dozen lessons learned, things that I learned along the way. Some of it before Veeva, but most of it during the time in the last 7.5 years since we started the company. And then I have some advice for the MBA students in the room, and we'll save some time for questions. So just personally, so I'm from Philadelphia. I'm kind of a good Philly guy. I like the Eagles. I like the Phillies. I love Rocky, cheesesteaks, pretzels, the whole thing. But I grew up as a soccer player, which was a little unusual. I'm 42, so back then there were not so many little kids running around playing soccer. But that kind of worked for me because it got me into college. I got recruited to play soccer at Yale. And so that sort of started the flywheel of good things happening. After I finished my undergrad in '94, I went out to Asia. And that picture you see up there, that's a band. And I married the first lead singer that I ever got to hang out with. It's not actually an all-girl band, although it looks like it. My wife is the one in the middle, leaning over in the black. And we met on the island of Borneo while I was stationed there and she was working as a singer. I came back to HBS from there, and in my summer, I spent time in Singapore with her, and then she came back with me. We got married the beginning of my second year, and then we've been together since. After HBS, we went to New York, and we were in New York City for about 6 years. During 9/11, we were there. We lived downtown. My wife was standing outside looking at one Twin Tower when the second one fell. And so for those of you who were around New York at that time, you know, we still won't forget that. And then we went out to Oregon for a year, and then we returned back to Philadelphia, where I'm from. And this is now my life, is Gabriel, Noah, and Benjamin, 5, 8, and 10. And Halloween was just awesome last night. We had a ninja, we had Black Spider-Man, and Noah is my little soccer player. So he was dressed as a soccer guy. So that's the personal path. The career path, between undergrad and business school, I went to Booz Allen, and I did a year in New York and a year in Asia. Really great training for business school. Not really great training to go be an entrepreneur, although I'm wicked good at Excel. But it was really great training for business school. And after business school, I went to Siebel. There were 16 of my classmates that went to Siebel. At the time, it wasn't clear that Siebel was going to be a big company. It ended up being the fastest software company to $1 billion, and then took 1 year to go from $1 billion to $2 billion. And then a couple years to go back down to $1 billion, and then was sold to Oracle. But it was great training there. I left to go to Intellichem, which was a 20-person software company at the time. We grew it to be about 45 people in a year and sold it for 10 times revenues right before we were about to run out of money. So that one could have gone either way. And then I came back to Philly, worked at a small company called Health Market Science. It was about a 60-person company when I got there, about 120 when I left. That company was sold shortly after I started Veeva. So that's the career path. Kind of started at a big company, very small, still small, and then we started Veeva. So industry cloud, what is industry cloud? So we look at just the evolution of the enterprise software market. If you were in Zach's presentation earlier, you got a little bit of this already. But mainframe to client server was kind of a 20, 30-year progression. None of the mainframe software companies, DEC, Digital, Wang Computing, ended up being leaders in client server. And then client server lasted for about 20, 25 years. And none of the leaders in client server, PeopleSoft, SAP, Siebel, have become leaders in cloud. So these transitions in technology have been really significant. And to quote Clayton Christensen, these are disruptive technologies. Each one makes it so much harder to compete that it's going to take a new group of companies, a new group of people to become the market leaders there. And cloud is obviously the one that we are in. And if you're in this room and you're interested in technology, you probably know about cloud. It is as disruptive to the enterprise software market as the automobile was to horse and buggy. It literally is that disruptive. And if you haven't been on the inside of it, it may be hard to see that, but it is very, very obvious from my career having been in client server and now cloud. Now we think the next thing is industry cloud. Same technology, but a different focus. Cloud, Workday, Salesforce.com, ServiceNow, one product, or NetSuite, one product you can sell to every company in the world. HR, CRM, training, ERP, accounting. Industry cloud is different. Industry cloud is something so specific that only companies in one industry can make use of it. And these companies have largely been held back from this whole generation of cloud computing because the horizontal cloud stuff doesn't work for companies that are very specific in an industry. And so it's a pharma company that has salespeople that don't actually take any orders or close any deals. So a normal CRM system doesn't work for them. They need something industry specific. And because those markets have been smaller traditionally in the past, entrepreneurs didn't flock there. So we were one of the first management teams to go after industry cloud, which is real multi-tenant cloud computing solutions for a specific industry. And we're going deeper and deeper in that industry. And now let me talk about so is that big? Is it a big deal? If you look at software in general, the biggest chunk of enterprise software is vertical specific software. And there's hundreds of companies in that orange. Over $100 billion a year in packaged enterprise software that is industry specific, stuff that you could really only sell into one industry. This even leaves out all the custom stuff that they have to do on top of it. If you look at CRM, CRM is 20% the size of vertical specific. ERP, it's 4 times bigger than ERP. So this is the biggest part of software. And before all these industry cloud companies started, there was no cloud computing. It was all, and there's even still mainframe in this bucket. But now it's a lot of client server as well. If you look at it from kind of a project or from a user perspective, in client server, 10% of the dollars that were spent are on the software. In a vertical, you have to spend another 10% on the customization to make it work for that vertical. You have another 20% of the infrastructure, and the rest is IT, labor, and services. A real industry cloud application replaces the infrastructure, the customization, and the software. So you take that 10% of dollars and you turn it into 36% of dollars, 3.5 times bigger. So you're getting rewarded for removing the customization, for eliminating the infrastructure, and for reducing the labor it takes to run the system. So what this does is this means if it was a $250 million market for client-server software, the kind of an entrepreneur that would go after that market is different than the kind of an entrepreneur that might go after $1 billion market. So if it's $250 million and you do great and you get 10% share, you get a $25 million company, and maybe you get to sell it for $50 million one day. That's all good, right? That's not bad. But that's very different than if this is a $1 billion market, you could create a $250 million company and sell it for $1 billion someday. It's another zero for those of you that are not at MIT. So what it does is it creates what people used to refer to as micro verticals, and it actually creates big markets. So when we started the company, people thought we were crazy. Like, you guys are actually, you're good. Like, why would you do something so small? And we said, you'll see. We think it's going to be big. And so this is starting to play out. Let me give a specific example of how it plays out. So I'm going to pick on Documentum for a second here. Anyone ever log into Documentum and search for something? Anybody? How'd you like that? Awful, correct. Horrific. Like, you can't imagine. But people that are older than you, my age and older, have been logging into Documentum for 20 years, and it's horrific. Now, if you look at Documentum and say, all right, well, we're going to build something to replace Documentum, let me describe now why what we're doing, and this is one of the things we happen to be doing, we're going to get a lot more dollars than what Documentum was able to get. Because the Documentum license is the start of the whole infrastructure stack. You need an Oracle database, you need server monitoring software, you need virus protection, file storage, you need an operating system. And then in a vertical, in a specific industry, you got to build the applications on top that make Documentum work for your specific workflow. So all kinds of servers and software and lots of things you got to stitch together. And then you need services to make all that work. So it's not, you can't say, well, how big is industry cloud? Oh, we're going to take out Documentum. It's this whole stack. Now this stack, this is the production environment. And if you're in a regulated industry, you need a QA department, you need a QA environment, and you need a development environment, and you need disaster recovery. So that one little license is actually all of these boxes. And in a life sciences company where we're going after, that was just for submissions. You need the same thing for quality, for clinical, for promotional materials and marketing. You need the same thing for medical. We have one customer that has 137 different content repositories, all on-premise, all that look like that. So when you're sizing how big could industry cloud be versus what client server was, it dwarfs it. So we have a product called Veeva Vault. It replaces the entire stack, probably 100 line items of cost with one subscription line. So this industry cloud thing we think is going to be big. And you can do it and make money at the same time. So if you look at high growth software as a service companies, on the left are the horizontal companies. They spend on average 50% of revenue on sales and marketing. It's hard to make money if you're spending half of your revenue on sales and marketing. On the right are vertical specific software companies. Companies like Medidata, Guidewire, Veeva, Athena Health. We spend an average about 20%. That 30% gap, if you can make that work, this is how you make money and you grow quickly. And Veeva has largely been known as the fastest growing, most profitable SaaS company. It's not because we're smarter than the other guys. It's not because these guys on the left don't know what they're doing. It's a different model. We're going after one industry. I've been in this industry for a long time. I know where the bodies are buried. I know which companies are the ones that we should be targeting. My team knows where we should be focused. And so we're not doing Super Bowl ads. We're showing up at a 75-person conference to get to the 8 companies that we think are the next best targets. Or we're throwing a big conference ourselves where our customers are getting together and talking about their success. So, you know, a lot of you you're running spreadsheets, you're doing balance sheets. The difference between 50% of your revenue on sales and marketing and 20 is tremendous. And we never had 50. We were always at 20. So industry cloud is big, and you can make money doing it. So now I'll talk about Veeva. So we founded the company 2007, February 2007. We are on a $300 million run rate from our last quarter. We raised $3 million to start the company. It was 3 angel investors, each wrote $1 million check, and we never blew through it. So we actually did this whole thing on $3 million. The cash balance never got below $500,000. And we raised another $4 million from a venture capital firm because when Pfizer looked at our balance sheet, they laughed at us and they wanted to see more money. And so we quick raised around. We got a great partner in Emergence Capital. Some of you have already said in the room that you know those guys. That was a great partnership. Sometimes small company VC doesn't work out so well. This is like a storybook ending, and it's not over, but a great story of a VC-backed company with a great relationship with the VC, particularly since we didn't need their money to run the business. So we basically created this company on $3 million. Our customers are almost 100% life sciences companies, and we're headquartered in Silicon Valley. Very important. If you're going to build software, if you can do it in Silicon Valley, you could have an advantage. Now it's hard. You have to pay the people extra. It's super competitive. And if people don't know your company, it's hard to compete with Facebook and LinkedIn and Salesforce and others. What we do is pretty simple. We build cloud computing software for the life sciences industry. This stuff gets very, very deep. The requirements are tricky. The industry is highly, highly regulated. So you can't just kind of back your way into building stuff for a highly regulated industry. You have to really do it on purpose. So we have a lot of people that really understand the industry and a lot of people that really understand technology. And we have 3 product lines today. We have a CRM product line, we have a content management product line, and we have one for master data management. They all work together. We have some companies that have bought them all. And our biggest opportunity is to basically cross-sell within the big pharma companies. So we can keep our sales and marketing low even as we continue to grow the company across multiple product lines, because even though the buyers may not be the same, the companies are the same. We also have implementation services. This was something that surprised us. When we started the company, Peter and I didn't want any services. We said Accenture and Deloitte and Cognizant and smaller companies, they'll do all the services work, we'll just be technology guys. What we underestimated was the extent to which our customers wanted us on the project. And when the products were really new, we really needed our own people there, because it was hard for a partner to keep up with a product that was changing every 2 weeks. SaaS can go pretty fast. So we have a few hundred services people around the world that are highly valued by customers, and we don't give them away. That's also a profitable business for us. And we do have partners, systems integrators and technology partners that help us go to market and help to make our customers successful. So that's the company at a glance. Now, why did I get invited? I mean, I probably got invited here because of this slide and the next one. So we're the 3rd fastest growing SaaS company ever. We didn't know this until this research came out, because we were sort of focused on what we were doing. So Salesforce.com grew faster in their first 6 years in DealerTrack. There's some great companies to the left there. Workday, anyone hear of Workday? This is this unbelievable company. And we actually grew faster than them, quite a bit faster in the first 6 years, although they'll beat us in the second 6 for sure. LinkedIn is there. LinkedIn's a real company. So it was unusual that we were able to grow so quickly and profitably. Part of why we were able to do that is ARPC, is average revenue per customer. Our average revenue per customer is about $1 million. That's why I'm in a suit, by the way, and not a t-shirt and shorts. Right? So you want to go ask for $1 million, you don't show up in a t-shirt and a hoodie. So we're almost off the chart here. And so what is that? And if you look at the companies that grew faster than us, Salesforce and Track, I circled them in red, totally different model. Right? So those companies got over 200 million with tens of thousands of customers. We did it with 150. So very different. The VCs would call us the elephant hunters of SaaS. Now that is because we've built an application that is so valuable for a large company that they'll pay millions of dollars for it. And within 18 months of starting the company, we had our first $1 million a year customer. Within 3 years, we had our first $5 million a year customer. We now have 10, 20, and $30 million a year customers. So this is not like a little widget that you put on your desktop. These are enterprise systems that are helping these companies discover new drugs, get them to market, and sell and market them globally. So, very different model in industry cloud than horizontal. We did have an IPO. This was about a year ago. When you start a tech company, you kind of think, I want to go public, right? That's like, I made it. And Zach talked this morning that, things really changed for them when they went public. For us, that's not been the case. For us, there's about 4 people in the company that it kind of changed what we do. And I think for most of the people in the company, public, private, doesn't matter, because we are all about customer success. And we tried very hard as a management team to make sure that from the transition from private to public was merely a financial one, and that it didn't change the way that we develop products, didn't change the way that we try to close out quarters, didn't change the way that we run the company. In fact, yesterday was the last day of the quarter. And I kind of forgot, because the last day of the quarter is not a big deal for us. We don't run the company quarter to quarter. We don't have discounts that expire at the end of the quarter. And so we have everyone rushing to try to get the deal closed by the end of the quarter. That's not good for customers. Our customers buy when they're ready to use the software. And so the IPO itself was fun. When I was in these seats, like, yeah, that'd be cool, take a company public one day. I learned a ton. One of my classmates was on the team from Morgan Stanley that took us public. Another one of my classmates was at our VC at the time. That's cool stuff. I met classmates as investors on the road. So that's all good. But you have to really want to go public. You have to really want to do it because it's a big responsibility and it does change some things. For those few people, it changes a lot of things. To put it in context, here's our revenue since we went public. So kind of up to the right, right? This is what we told people was going to happen. This is what happened. So what should happen to the stock? It should go up, right? So this is what happened to our stock. We went from 20 to 49 to 20 in about 20 weeks. That was fun. And then from 20 to 30, back to 30 in the next 6 months. And what did we do as a company? We continued to beat expectations, our own and the street. So you have to have a tough stomach to do this. You have to be able to run the company, run your day without looking at the stock chart every day, every minute, every hour. I used to joke with people like, you know, trying to get our employees kind of conditioned to this. Say, oh, guys, I had such a great meeting. Let's go check the stock. Let's see how I did. Right? I mean, it's ridiculous. But you get people, if you're not careful, you can get people in the company that think, oh, you know, everything that we're doing is affecting the stock price. It's not. Over time, over years, your revenue and your profits and your customer success will go in line with your stock price. But over a week or a month or even a year, it won't, and you can't worry about that. We went public for just 3 reasons. First was because we were unknown in Silicon Valley. We were unknown for 2 reasons. We were in an industry vertical, which people are like, oh, industry, that's small, right? So when I was talking about industry cloud, trying to demonstrate to you that it's big, we still have to demonstrate to people that industry cloud is big. People thought, oh, it's a vertical, it must be small, whatever. And we didn't raise money. Right? The way in Silicon Valley that people know a private company is by raising round after round, and they're talking about you at the cocktail parties, and they're talking about you at conferences. We ignored all the VCs. I turned down 500 meetings with VCs. Now, when I was a student, I thought, man, I can't wait till the VCs call me. Well, when you're in the other seat and you don't actually need the money, it's like, I can't wait till the VCs stop calling. Because, you know, it's not fun to say no to people. But we were an unknown. And we had to hire a lot of people in Silicon Valley. And so number 1 reason for going public was to change the level of awareness of Veeva in Silicon Valley so that we could hire product people. And we achieved that. Second was because when we had $10 and $20 million a year customers, we needed more transparency, and we needed to prove governance. If you're a CIO going for a $10 million PO, you'd rather that that's a public company than a private one. And then third, you know, we did give all of our employees stock options, and we wanted people to be able to trade their equity. So we were successful in achieving those objectives, but you have to have tough skin. I've been called a liar. I've been called an exaggerator. You know, this is the level of customer success and the ongoing revenue and profits of the business is really the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what they say about me. So if you're going to do it, know why you're doing it. And then, you know, this was not me, right? There's 900 Veeva employees now. Amazing people from around the world. Some of which I've worked with before, some of which Peter, my co-founder, has worked with before. But people in Japan and China and Turkey and Bulgaria, Brazil, all over Europe. Great people. And very early on in the company, I told people that I wanted Veeva to be a place that current employees would look over their shoulder and think, man, it's a good thing I got in when I did, because I could never get into this company now. We want to keep raising the bar. All right. So let's talk about some lessons learned. First, I started Veeva with a stranger. I didn't know the guy. Now, this is not a lesson learned like, go do this. This was hard. But, you know, I would look at those management teams and they started with their college buddies or a guy that they grew up down the street. We didn't do that. I lived in Philadelphia. Peter lived in California. We had never met. It was sort of like eHarmony for starting a company. And the people that brought us together were those 3 angel investors. Now, this did a couple of things. It forced us to not be a headquarters-centric company. That we're selling into pharma companies largely. They're much more on the East Coast than the West Coast. So the fact that I knew pharma and I was on the East Coast was really good. The fact that Peter was kind of a Silicon Valley legend and attracted great technology people, that was good. And so the fact that we were on different coasts, it really worked. But that's hard. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. The important thing there beyond the location was that Peter and I were also very different. I'm very much an optimist. I'll look at a glass that's half empty and, man, that thing is almost overflowing. Peter is a Swiss guy who grew up in his father's machine shop. He looks at a glass and he like, oh, that thing's going to break any second. There's going to be no water left. I mean, we are total opposites in the way that we see the world. So when we agreed on business strategy, we were generally right because we had such different perspectives. So that was the lesson there. This was our first business plan. Anyone see a business plan that looked like this? We didn't win a business plan contest. This is it. Like it went from the napkin to the whiteboard. And those 8 company names up at the top, those were the companies that I thought, based on my experience, that we could get first. And we have 7 of those 8. There's still 1 holdout. And the rest of that, that's the product plan. It wasn't what's our sales and marketing strategy. It was how are we going to build a product that really works. So you don't need, it's the idea and the execution is much more important than kind of how polished is the plan. No, I don't recommend you try to hand this in and win a business plan contest, but the vision of what you're trying to do is more important than the polish, particularly in the beginning. The vision, and there's lots of visions that can be right for a company. We chose this one. We've only changed it. We've only tweaked it a couple times. We want to be the leading provider of cloud solutions to a big global growing industry. But there's lots of right visions out there. The vision is important. The idea, the nugget of what it is you're going to do is important, and the vision and the consistency of vision is important. We start and end all of our big company meetings, internal or external, with the vision and the values. Now, the vision is where are we going. The values is how do you get there. These are the things that you use to make decisions. So for us, the top 3 values are customer success, employee success, and speed. So if I have 100 things to do, I rank them. Can I help customers with any of these things? And I do those first. When I'm done with those, then I'll go help employees. And whatever I do, I try to do it fast. We repeat the vision and values over and over and over and over. You have to talk the talk a lot in order to get it ingrained in people's heads, but then you need to walk the talk. Absolutely. And the values are important, and they help to make decisions. Do the right thing. This is much funnier with this slide with an older audience, by the way, because you guys were like in diapers when this movie came out. But do the right thing. This is above the vision and values. So the vision and values are like, you get the right people in the room and let's go execute. Do the right thing is before. This is, in order to get the right people in the room, you have to get the moral compass right. And for me, there's no gray area. Either it's black or it's white. Either we can do it or we really shouldn't. And the measure is, if you're sitting at your desk, you're about to send that email, and your mother's looking over your shoulder, and she'd be saying, no, I don't know what you're doing, what happened to my kid, that's bad, you don't do it. So it's how do you act when you're by yourself? Do you act the same as if someone was looking over your shoulder? And the moral compass is important for a company. We use it to make sure that people get paid appropriately, to make sure that we hire the right people, that when we fire someone, we do it in the right way, that when we get a new customer, they understand what we're all about. Doing the right thing permeates everything that we do. It's more important than vision and values. It's being able to look in the mirror. Customer success. So I came from a place, Siebel, where we had customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction was really important to Siebel. It was so important that we had this whole huge mechanism to measure it. And it was a survey. And I always imagined this, and we would get paid based upon the results of the survey. So what happened? The IT manager sitting in front of his computer filling out the survey. The sales rep is standing over one shoulder. My team standing over the other shoulder. No, you're really happy. Really, really, really happy. 9 out of 10. That's customer satisfaction, like filling out a survey. Customer success is the guy who ran the project gets promoted. The company's revenues go up. The company gets a product to market faster. When they're in a room with their peers, they tell people how great it is and how great it was to work with us and that they should do it too. Customer success is very different than customer satisfaction. And you can run lots of companies, lots of different types of companies and not really get focused on customer success. But if you're going to do an industry cloud and all these people are going to get together at conferences and they know each other and they switch jobs, they jump from company to company in an industry, you can't be successful in enterprise software without real customer success, not over the long run. And this focus really also permeates the whole company. It's how we make decisions. That's why it's our first value. Focus. there's going to be all kinds of great ideas along the way. Salesforce.com is my favorite example of focus. Salesforce.com had so many opportunities to veer off and go do ERP, go do HR, go do all kinds of things. And Benioff just kept everyone focused on, this is about SFA. This is SFA. We got to get that right, get that right. And we had that same kind of focus. We had a lot of opportunity to veer off and create new product lines, and a big customer that wanted to do it differently and install something. You got to keep the focus. You got to know what you're doing, and the things that you don't do sometimes can be just as important as the things that you do. And that focus was really critical for us. Don't overspend. So this is one of my favorites, and I'll spend a little bit more time on this one. So when you go to start a company and you want to raise money, I remember hearing people, oh, we raised $50 million. We raised $110 million. You know what happens to the company that raises $110 million? They spend $110 million, and then they need more. So we raised $3 million. We couldn't afford anything. We were super, super cheap, but we were super efficient. We were super smart with our spend. So for example, we didn't have an HR person in the company until we had over 100 people. We didn't have our first administrative assistant until we had over 200 people. I only got mine like this year. It's really good, by the way. But we waited a long time for that. Every other company, when they're getting ready to go public, they had a chief marketing officer, a VP of business development, an SVP of alliances, head of corporate development. I did all of those jobs. And by doing all of those jobs myself, now it doesn't mean I was as good as 5 people. It meant that I spent 3% of my time doing something that if we hired a senior person, they would spend 110% of their time on it. And if you hire a senior person to run like alliances, it is going to create work for everyone in the company. There's no way you hire a senior person who's good at their job and they just sort of keep it all to themselves. It's not what you hire them for. So you get ahead of alliances, you're going to have a lot of work for the product team, the sales team, the G&A team. So we just resisted. We resisted as long as we could to bring these people in. Our chief marketing officer, I was running marketing with a 4-person team and a nothing budget. We now have a chief marketing officer. 2 years later, we have like a 40-person team and I think $6, $7, $8 million budget, something like that. Now, that was the right thing for the company. If we had brought that person in 2 years earlier, we would have had a multi-million-dollar marketing budget 2 years earlier. So remember, when you hire those senior people, they're coming to build an organization, to build capabilities, sometimes to spend money. So don't hire them until you really have to, and you can avoid overspending along the way. Pricing. So pricing is so important. Anyone in the negotiations class? Anyone taking that negotiations class? I failed that one when I was here. That was my 3. And so I was not actually involved in the pricing negotiations generally. Peter does that. Peter can say no much better than I can. I want everybody to like me. That's kind of the rat on me. And so I'm not a great price negotiator. If I had done all of the pricing negotiation, we wouldn't be a profitable company. I mean, it's that simple. 10%, 20% difference in price is the difference between profits or not profits. It's for some companies the difference between survival and failure. It was so important for us. And in software, there's 2 basic ways of pricing. Enterprise software, B2B, there's 2 basic ways of pricing. Either you get as much as you can on every deal, and so you have all kinds of gymnastics around the end of the quarter and discounts that expire, buy more up front and we'll give you a lower price. Or you just say it's like going into Bloomingdale's and that's the price. And that's what we did. We said our pricing strategy is consistency. Everyone pays the same based upon the size of the company they are, and to the great extent they do. And in return, we don't cut our price. It's always the same. And so pricing is super important from the very beginning. You're setting a market price with your first customers. So make sure you get that right and really focus on it. Hiring A players. There's a myth that if you hire too many A players, they'll all fight with each other. That is not true. If you hire the right kinds of people, they make each other better. If you hire B players, they might hire C players to make themselves feel better about themselves. But if you hire A players, they want to attract and work with other A players. Super important. And this guy who's going to be a software engineer someday, he's the most important guy in the company. It's not me. Without the people building the products, you can't do anything. Now, the best product doesn't always win, but if you want to build something over the long term, you need the best product and the best people, and the engineers are super important. So I want to leave time for questions. So let me go to some friendly advice, and this is mostly for the MBA students here. So if you came to business school, many of you, to get a better job or to get a different job. If you spend all of your time looking for a job, then you're not going to get a lot out of business school. You're here not to get one job. You're here to set yourself up for your career. And so if you spend your 2 years looking for a job and you get that job and you get fired, you're SOL. I mean, you totally blew it. If you come here and you build relationships, you build skills, you build confidence, you build a network, and that first job doesn't work out, there'll be people rooting for you to go get that next job. Don't be a jerk, but don't be a slacker either. And I remember both. The guys who are like, it's Baker Scholar or nothing. Those guys left as Baker Scholars with no friends. And people are not rooting for them today. The slackers, the people who wanted to demonstrate that they could get through Harvard Business School and not have to work too hard, guess what they're doing today? They're not working too hard. I don't hire those guys. So people remember if you're cool. They remember if you're lazy. They remember if you were a jerk. And if you were a jerk, they're not rooting for you 10, 20 years down the road. Spend time. Not just like, oh yeah, we walked to class together, or we went to the Cyberposium together. Real time. Go out for a 3-hour dinner one-on-one, get to know somebody. Go on the trips. So this is my one regret. I did some of these things right. I don't know how I did it. I got here when I was 23. Somehow got some of this stuff right. But those organized trips over spring break or winter break, do those trips. I didn't do any of those because I brought my wife over and I just want to hang out with her. But that's my one regret, is I didn't go on any of those trips. Go on those organized trips. Get to know people. And for some of you, that means go get drunk with them. That's fine too. It wasn't my strategy. That's not my thing. But if that's your thing and you want to hang out with other people that's their thing, do it together. Spend the whole night together. Throw up on each other, whatever. And then if you're not having fun, if these 2 years aren't the best 2 years of your life, you are totally blowing it. This is much more fun than working. Work is hard. And then you're going to have families. You're going to try to balance growing a company or getting ahead in your job with raising kids. That is hard. Business school is not hard. It is so fun. I wish I was still here some days. So it should really be fun. So if you wake up and you're not excited to be here, you're not super psyched, you're doing something wrong. Either you're in the wrong place or your focus is off. Get to know your classmates. The professors, for some people, are real important. I didn't keep in touch with any professors, but doesn't mean you shouldn't. If I had taken Clayton Christensen's class, which I should have, then I would sure try to be in touch with him. But your classmates are the most important thing here. You'll learn from them. You may buy from them. You may sell to them. You may invest together. You may start companies together. So spend the time to get to know them. All right. So let's go to that cool thing with the questions. What is that called? What is it? Not the tweet wall thing, the other one. Pigeonhole. Is anyone here from Pigeonhole? Because I would like an order form. I saw this morning for the first time. It is so cool. All right, so I'll just go in order. That's what you guys want to talk about. So talent competition with places like Facebook. How do we attract and retain talent? It's hard. It is hard. Hiring in Silicon Valley is one of the hardest things that we do. And for the people that want to be at Facebook, they generally don't want to be doing business-to-business software. Right? There's just something about those guys that it's got to be Facebook or Google or nothing. And so we generally don't have people that are deciding between Facebook or Veeva. More often they're deciding between Facebook and Workday or ServiceNow, other great companies, but business to business. And it's the difference between putting something out there for free to see what sticks and working on something that companies spend millions of dollars on. Just a different thing that makes people tick. I couldn't work at a consumer company. I couldn't do it. There's something about helping a big company get better, make more money, and the way that that trickles down through their communities and society that I like. I like helping big companies make more money. All right. What just happened? I missed it. How do you acquire your first company? First customer. It was actually funny. So it was about 90 days after we started writing code. And it was a company I knew, but not people I knew. The first order was about $3,400, so it was not a big order. Remember, our average is around $1 million. So this one started pretty small. And in order to get that signed, at the time that I wanted to do it, because we were about to launch the first product, I wanted the first product and the first customer at the same time. I also signed a $3,600 consulting agreement where we would pay them for their expertise. Now, they never charged us, but they could have. And so the first deal actually that we signed could have been net revenue of basically zero. But the first one was a contract sales organization named Publicis, still a customer today. One brave guy who wanted to use it for a very small team. And you know, we were trying to sell them the future. For most of our customers, the very first software as a service project they ever did was Veeva. And so we were sort of the Salesforce.com for this industry because they had been left behind. All right. A time that my values were challenged in what you did. So let's see. My values don't get challenged. I mean, it's really, I don't have ethical dilemmas. If it's not obvious, I mean, I sound like, now I'm like beating my chest. Look at me. But I don't get challenged with ethics. I guess the challenging thing is kind of money versus doing the right thing, right? So like if we didn't do right by an employee, do we give them some extra money? Do we allow them to vest some extra stock? That's the one probably that gets us thinking. And then it's what's the right thing to do, right? Is it the right thing to do that this employee had a bad experience so we should give him more money? Well, what about the employees that are working their asses off every day? They don't deserve more money? Like this guy deserves more money because we didn't do well? So we don't throw money around to make up for mistakes, but there are cases on the margin where it's a temptation when you're profitable and you have a stock that you can use as currency. It is a temptation to use money to kind of make problems go away. We don't do that, but I think that's probably the closest to it. What other industries do you think would work well for an industry cloud solution? So the more different it is than kind of a straight up high-tech company, the better. So highly regulated industries are really good because the stuff is hard, but they're also harder because they're highly regulated. So you can't back your way into highly regulated stuff. You have to really do it on purpose. So we think about oil and gas and banking and insurance, travel and transportation, automobile as like big industries, and energy, big industries that are still using either client server or in many cases mainframe systems. You can get a company off of a mainframe system onto industry cloud, you're their best friend for a very long time, like a decade or more. Now there are also smaller ones, like we used to make fun of yoga studios. Software for yoga studios, we never do that. Turns out MindBody is a pretty darn good company. And they do it for yoga studios and physical therapists and stuff like that. So it can be big or small, and MindBody is going to be a real great company someday in something that even we, like industry cloud bigots, used to make fun of. So the thing is bigger than you think when you're replacing that whole stack of stuff. Let's see. So I want to keep going in order, but I also want to have good answers. What was the most interesting experience you had when trying to sell to a customer? He'll kill me for saying it, but there was one time that we flew to Columbus, Ohio, and the sales rep that was supposed to get us from the airport to the customer, which was about 6 minutes, got lost, and we were late to the meeting. I hate being late. And Mike, if you're listening on a recording sometime, I'm sorry. I won't say your last name. But we lost that deal. Like, we had one chance to go sell to this customer, and we were like 15 minutes late for a 90-minute meeting. So, they're gonna give us $1 million and let us run a project that is important for their running the business, and we can't even get to the meeting on time. So, I don't know that that's the most interesting. That's the one that jumps out. Regrets. So, I have a little bit of one regret that I'm still working on. If I grade myself over the last few years. I think I've done an A at Veeva. I think I'm about a B, B+ with my kids, because when I'm with them, I'm really good, but when I'm not with them is a lot. So I can't get an A for that. I think I'm probably in the C range for my wife, because it goes company, kids, wife. And the regret is that I'm like way, way, way down at the bottom, and I haven't taken care of myself. And that's the one thing that people give me a hard time about. So I have not been able to figure out how to be a great husband and a great dad and continue to keep Veeva running while taking care of myself. I haven't been able to do that. So if anyone has suggestions, I'm open. One more question? Okay. Now this one, I'm going to choose my favorite question. But I can't see them. Is that because you're down here and you were, I can't see it anywhere. Does anyone want to yell out one last question? Because I can't see them. Or can anyone see the votes? All right, so then let me just close with, again, a thank you to the organizers. It's a real thrill for me to be here. We are hiring, and we don't have a summer internship program for MBAs yet, but we will hire hundreds of people in the next couple years. We like people with at least a couple years of experience in either technology at a good company or at a life sciences company. That's what we look for. I would not get an offer at Veeva today. I wouldn't even get an interview. I was 2 years out of consulting when I went to business school. We don't hire those people. Veeva is not a place that people come to learn software. It's a place that people come to build an industry cloud for life sciences. In order to be relevant from the time that you get there, you need to either know technology or know life sciences. So I'll stick around till after Sam's presentation, and would love a chance to chat with some of you. Thanks so much for your attention. Appreciate it.